There are 5 stocks that are about to mark new all-time highs. Which are they, but more importantly, should we buy them? How often do you read in newspapers rather than on websites stock X this week broke all-time highs? Recently, for example, the new all-time highs of Louis Vuitton shares recorded a few weeks ago, or the new highs of Nvidia, a company now on everyone's lips thanks precisely to its stellar performance since the beginning of the year, have caused a sensation. Just think that since January we are at plus 200%. Often, however, investors notice precisely the new all-time highs too late when they have already been marked. This is because a stock conscripted Nvidia is minus 3% from all-time highs does not make much news. Well, in this video, we will reveal 5 stocks that we traders at InvestBiz are keeping an eye on that have the makings of new highs. First, however, let's make a small premise. Many people argue that buying stocks that are near all-time highs is unprofitable. In fact, oftentimes a stock, if it is at all-time highs, can be overvalued. And several cognitive biases make us think that it is better to buy a stock that has perhaps fallen a lot and therefore will recover sooner or later, since it has marked much higher prices in the past than it is now. Conversely, one thinks that a stock on all-time highs must necessarily retrace sooner or later. Well, we shall see that in most cases this is not the case. There are so many cases precisely of companies that surpassed historical highs and then continued in this positive trend, even undergoing an acceleration of the trend, while there are also many examples to the contrary, that is, of stocks that having reached minus 50, minus 60, minus 70%, have continued to fall, reaching minus 80, minus 90. Let's start with these very examples, and mind you, we will talk about examples that you are probably all familiar with. I will not tell you the name of this stock, but I can tell you that it is a stock that we analyzed at the beginning of the year. This stock, after reaching $200 2 years ago, began a long descent. In June last year, the stock reached minus 88% from all-time highs. Most investors tend to think that this stock will recover sooner or later, and minus 88% is a difficult point to overcome on the downside. Well, actually, within 6 months, the stock reached minus 94%, and in May this year, the lows were further upgraded to minus 95%. Do you understand which stock I'm talking about? If so, write it down in the comments. I'm curious to see if you know which one it is. Another example to consider is Zoom. The stock went public in April 2219 and had a crazy hype right around the time of the pandemic, when everyone was using this software for job calls so much so that it recorded a performance of plus 800% from December 2219 to November 2220. From there on, the stock began its descent and within a year lost 55%. This is certainly an important figure, but nothing compared to at least 85% recorded in May of last year and at least 89% recorded in May of 2293. The upside examples, on the other hand, have even more of the resounding. We can take, for example, Apple, which after losing 30% in the week of the pandemic has put up a plus 125% within a year and a half. But also Nvidia itself, which has been one of the best performing stocks in the entire S&P 500, not coincidentally with recent rises, has become the best performing stock in the last 10 years, performance of plus 10%. Even Nvidia, after breaking all-time highs in May 2020, has put up another incredible performance of plus 300% in 18 months alone. And there is no shortage of other positive examples, again taken from Nvidia's history. In a little more than 2 years, from March 2016 to September 2018, the stock marked plus 750%. After all, 10% in 10 years is not put down by chance. Of course, these performances are difficult to achieve. It is not easy to get out of a stock at all-time highs before a correction phase begins. Moreover, during such large time periods, one must also be able to endure drawdown phases, phases during which we have to endure seeing the stock eat most, if not all, of the performance marked in the previous months. There is to be said, however, that in such long time periods we can find many opportunities to make satisfactory upside trades. Well, we have realized that stocks that break through all-time highs are largely very promising. But what then are these stocks that offer an entry opportunity right now? We are all familiar with the incredible performance of the technology sector, with the Nasdaq marking as much as plus 40% since the beginning of 2003. But there is another sector that is marking new all-time highs and can offer excellent upside performance. I am talking about the industrial sector. One of the stocks that at Investing Point Biz we are keeping an eye on from this sector is Caterpillar, which is only at least 5% from all-time highs. But there is also McDonald, a stock that we had already reported back in November 2002 and also last May, just when it had broken through previous highs. After a corrective phase, the stock has now recovered again and is now within 1% of these new all-time highs and is poised to break through them again. For Caterpillar, analysts are expecting a very good year, especially from the point of view of earnings, which should mark a plus 35% after a flat 2002. As for McDonald, on the other hand, after a zero growth 2002, analysts expect a year of revenue growth, expected upward of 8%. If this actually comes to fruition, it would be the best result in 5 years, but excluding the rebound achieved after the end of the pandemic. Two other super interesting stocks very close to their all-time highs are Coca-Cola and Pepsi, both at -4 and -3% from their all-time highs. On Nvidia's rise, on the other hand, we will not dwell on it. We have already talked enough about it among other videos, but it is interesting to note how its rise has driven upward the whole semiconductor sector. Rises from which an Italian-French company, STM Microelectronics, listed on the Italian stock exchange, has also benefited. STM is also very close to its all-time highs. As a bonus, we also point out two giants that certainly need no introduction. We are talking about Apple and Microsoft. Both stocks have just surpassed their all-time highs, last touched in December 2001. Thanks to the novelty of the GPT chat, both Apple and Microsoft hold the cards to continue in this incredible price rise they are marking in the stock market.